Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Can't believe they let us on the air. I was telling Andy, our engineer, this morning that I really appreciate being on the air, and I'm kind of surprised that we're allowed to be on the air. Thank you so much, Ted Anderson and John Statmiller. Yeah, Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes. Have you ever heard me say anything else, Ben?
I have not. That's why I keep asking you.
Are you hoping or just
hey, Dr.
being reassured?
No, I know. No, I know. Reassured, of course. When I'm with you, I can smell the bliss. It's a very, very pleasant scent, and whenever I'm around you, there is this scent of your bliss oils. Would you, Dr. Shealy, would you care to share with us what is bliss? Because, when I start this broadcast with you, I ask you if you're blissed, and I've been doing this for years. What is bliss oil, if you can, in your words?
I think we met not long after I developed the 5 bliss oils. And basically, I had these 5 circuits in the body, these acupuncture circuits, which before that we were stimulating with electricity. But people wouldn't take 20 minutes to do one of the circuits. It would take you, 100 minutes to do all 5 of them. And develop the oils to apply to each circuit. It takes 30 seconds to do one. So the first one was Air Bliss. And I was looking to see, because Air Bliss raises oxytocin, the bonding, the nurturing hormone. And that's the one I started with, but I've quickly got them for all of them. So you can raise your oxytocin. And in fact, you are one of our subjects of one of the research, and it raised your oxytocin very significantly within 30 minutes.
Yeah. It puts me in a state of, I would say, relaxation, a state where anxieties disappear.
I
state
call
where
that
I feel
detached.
more relaxed.
Yeah, I call that detached. In other words, who cares?
Yeah, and so here's an example, class. When I was in elementary school, high school, college, I avoided all those situations that would put me in front of people where I'd have to speak. All of them. I avoided them very successfully. And that's not a good thing. I'm not recommending that anyone follows my example. Don't do that. Because public speaking is something that I think everyone should be exposed to, learning how to do it. And so one of the things that was terrifying to me was speaking in front of people, in person and on the radio. And when I first started broadcasting, it was the kind of thing that was, if I were a guest on a radio show a month in advance, I'd be thinking about it for a month, being anxious about it for a whole month. And Dr. Shealy, you introduced me to Bliss, and you gave me a bottle of Air Bliss, and it removed that anxiety, I would say, within seconds. Yeah. Absolutely within seconds. So maybe you should explain to people, maybe you do, that if you're giving a speech and you're nervous, try Air Bliss. Absolutely.
No question.
It works for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you
nothing
ever
works
had
100% of people, but this works at 80% of people with depression or anxiety, and there's not a drug that could come half as good.
Oh yeah, yeah. My experience is it removed almost all, if not all, of my anxiety, and so I was able to speak publicly, speak in front of groups of maybe 10, 15, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, a couple thousand people, and now it's absolutely no big deal. It really isn't, and you become more accustomed to it. But before you become accustomed to it, it's terrifying. It really is.
Well, I grew up
and
I learned to do it. I love drama, and so even in high school, I participated in all the major plays that were put on, and I did the same thing in college, just because I like to act. Well,
I think it may have another positive benefit, and that is if you love to act, you love to be happy. I think those kind of go hand in hand, and I think that would extend one's life. Would you agree?
Absolutely. No question about it. The number one need, if you want to live a long time, is to be happy. No question about it.
So what is new with... Yes?
I often say you cannot afford the luxury of negativity. You can't afford the luxury of anger, guilt, anxiety, or depression.
Okay, then how about this? Dr. Shealy, I see people from a distance, people I don't know. And let's say I'm in a situation where I can hear other people talk, maybe with their spouses. And I can look and I can say, geez, that person doesn't look very healthy. And then I can see in their mannerisms, their body language, their tone, that they're kind of aggressive, with the people who they are with.
Right.
They're unhappy. Well,
interestingly, Torquem Saradarian wrote a wonderful little book in the last century called Irritation, the Destructive Fire. He pointed out that other people's crud, if you will, can damage you. I mean, even before I read Torquem Saradarian, I had a habit of imaging a wall, if you will, of light around me so nobody else's crap could get in. I don't believe in allowing other people's nonsense into my whole atmosphere. But Torquem says that other people's anger, guilt, anxiety, depression can actually cause what he called imperil, which is damage to your etheric nervous system.
So how do you prevent that contagion from affecting you? What actually do you do in either your mind or person to prevent that from contaminating you right then and there?
Since I read Torquem's booklet back in about 1974, I have used rose oil. He said there are antidotes to imperil. The first one in his list of about 30 was freesias, which to me are a wimpy little flower. But roses are the emperor, if you will, of positivity. And so I put a little big drop or two of rose oil in the palm of my hand, rub it on my solar plexus over my forehead, and I am intentioned that no one can possibly get into my aura.
Now, you mentioned roses, and I was out in the yard yesterday with Mrs. Finelli, and we're just walking around looking at the calves, and we've got what we've done is we've fenced in from our front yard all around the house. We fenced maybe half an acre to an acre, and we have these two bottle calves that we're training to eat grass, and they're just 4, 5, 6 weeks old. And we were looking at the roses that my mom had a rose garden, and it was a very tranquil feeling being in this area where she's planted tulips and roses and other plants that are really nice to look at. And my mother had a fascination, I won't say an addiction, but she loved roses. And it was almost impossible for her to go to a store that was selling roses and not buy one and take it home and plant it? I mean, that was something that, that she did.
I understand that. I've been gardening since I was 12 years old, and I have to say my favorite is roses.
Mm-hmm. Well, my mom's too. And so the rose oil, is that something that we feel when we get near it? Is that something that's transmitted through the air? Is it the look of the roses?
No question about it. Rose oil is, in my opinion, the single most common calming odor. Now, of course, the Bulgarian rose oil is exquisitely expensive. I mean, like $1,000 for an ounce.
Wow.
But you can buy just plain old natural rose oil much less expensively, and that works. It has the same energy.
Mm-hmm. Let's hold that thought and come back to roses and rose oil and that discussion after we talk with Shealy. She's in Iowa. Shealy, you've got a question for Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor?
Yes. I had the venous closure procedure done on both legs in 2005. And I went there. My legs have been bothering me, and my veins are bulging out quite a bit again. And so I went to my surgeon who did it, and he said he'd like to do an injection in my left leg because the catheter in there did not fail. However, in the right leg, the catheters that they used in 2005 were found to be not the best quality. And he did an ultrasound, and my blood is flowing backwards in my right leg, and he would like to get that scheduled to insert a new catheter in that right leg where I'm having so much problems. What's your thoughts?
We're going into a break, and if you could just stay with us, and I'd like to make sure that you get all of your questions answered by Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor. NormShealy.com. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. Shealy, you were asking Dr. Shealy about varicose veins. Please continue.
Okay, yes. I had that venous closure procedure done in 2005 on both legs. And both of my legs are hurting. The right is hurting a lot worse than the left. And he wants to repeat the procedure on the right leg because the catheters that were used in 2005 were found to not hold up as well as they were supposed to. And they have a new catheter now that he would like to go in and do this procedure over. And then on the left leg, the catheter is still working, and he just wants to do injections in those varicose veins to bring down the swelling.
Right. Well, to me, there are only two things that I know for treating these superficial varicose veins. One is the injections. There's something called sodium morrate, and it scleroses or makes the veins clot off so they are gone. The other is to strip the veins, which is a much bigger procedure. Personally, I would ask him if you couldn't have the injection done on both sides because those catheters are just like stents in the coronary arteries, and they're not going to last long term.
Okay. But he said the blood is flowing backwards in that leg where the catheter is not working.
Exactly. All the more reason to go ahead for the injection.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm having a lot of pain in that leg.
Right. I don't know any solution except either the injections or the stripping of the veins.
Okay.
So go to it with
the injections, are they safe to do, putting that chemical or whatever it might be into your body? Do you think it's a safe thing to be doing?
It's been going on for 50 years or more. I know of no, obviously it does cause the veins to clot off, but that's the purpose of it. And to my knowledge, it has no generalized systemic effect.
Okay. And you don't know anything about that venous closure procedure, VNUS closure procedure?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to do. He says that I need to get that fixed in that leg because the catheter malfunctioned.
I would I would go with what he's saying. That's the best thing to do.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your assistance.
Hey, you're welcome. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Shirley. Dr. Shealy, what causes varicose veins?
Now, there, you know, what causes illness? We don't know. Obviously, there are certain things that are associated with varicose veins. One of them is constipation. That's not uncommon in people who have varicose veins, but it's also partly genetic, and we just don't have, I don't know, a non-invasive approach for taking care of varicosities.
Okay. One of the things that I remember hearing many years ago was a barber, and he and I were talking, and he built a new barber shop, and he said that he insisted that the floor, or that the barbershop floor have a basement under it, because he wanted to have the spring in the joists that would support the floor, because it's easier on his legs. And I remember hearing barbers complaining about their circulation in their legs because they're on their feet so much. And is gravity part of the problem with varicose veins?
Oh, probably. And I have to say, my suspicion is that people who do not exercise vigorously or moderately even are going to have a much higher incidence of varicose veins, like every other illness practically. In other words, the couch potato syndrome, standing or sitting, is not healthy all day.
Let's get back to that when we come back from this break. So if a person is ill, I'm too weak to get up and move and go for a walk around the house or walk to the end of the driveway and back, even if it's 100 feet long. How do we overcome that? Can we discuss that when we get back? How do you overcome? Yeah. Dr. Shealy's with us. We're talking about varicose veins, and what does a person do when he or she feels weak? We're on the couch and we're tired, and it's like our health is not at its best, and we don't make me get up and walk to the end of that driveway, even though it's 100 feet long, and turn around and come back, or I'd like to go shopping, but gosh, going to that supermarket and walking down the aisles, it's too hard. Let me get in one of those carts and ride around. Or what do we do, Dr. Shealy, to overcome that?
One of two things. There are a number of vibratory plates or devices at which you can sit, lie, or stand. So vibrating the body as a whole is one way around it. I do just 10 minutes on that as part of my 90-minute exercise every morning, or get a vigorous massage device which you can sit and put your feet on, and that will at least vibrate your legs quite vigorously. And I would do 10 minutes at least 3 times a day if that's the only thing you can do.
I was in Menards, and it's like it's a combination home improvement store and supermarket, and I was walking down the aisle with our family, and I saw these 2 recliners in the aisle. Why are these there? So I sat in one, and it had all these buttons for a massage. You could get a let's say 8 different kinds of massages in this, we'll call it a lazy boy type recliner. Would that type of a machine help a person who can't seem to get up the necessary drive, or doesn't have the energy to exercise other ways? Would that help or not?
I always think halitosis is better, no breath at all. I actually bought one of those big, deep massage units last December that we use here at the clinic now. I do indeed. Any kind of massage is good. Okay.
So what I did when I wasn't feeling so well, I decided we were going to get a Whirlpool tub, and I found one on Craigslist, and it was put into a home, and they decided they didn't want it. I didn't use it. So I bought one and sterilized it just in case, and built another bathroom, if you will, in part of our house that didn't have one, and I put this Whirlpool tub in it. And it's great because I'll put Epsom salts in there and warm water, and I will fire that thing up and spend 20 minutes while this thing is blasting with, 6 or 8 jets on my skin, and I feel invigorated when I'm done. Would that type of a machine help someone who is suffering from varicose veins and help them get their circulation going? Or is that part of the problem, Dr. Shealy, that they need to get their circulation going?
Absolutely, that is part. So a Whirlpool is good because it provides not only some movement, but also heat. For the ultimate couch potato, I say, if you won't do anything else, move your television in the bathroom and just soak in a bathtub of hot water. Halitosis is better than no breath at all.
I was wondering about that. Not the halitosis, but the television, because I'm seeing that that people are putting these flat screen televisions where they can watch them while they're in their bathtub, and I was thinking, I don't get it, but now I get it. I thought it was just more addiction, but it is.
However, it has been demonstrated for the heart, only for the heart, not the rest of the body. 20 minutes of soaking in a hot bath is as good as moderate exercise. Now, the rest of your body doesn't get it, but, the most important organ for getting some movement is the heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember a cardiologist telling me in exercise, the plan is to get your heart rate, up pretty high. So, really stress, and push. And is that what you do, Dr. Shealy, when you exercise, that vigorous?
Oh, yeah. I like to get my heart rate at rest is 60. And I like to get it up at least to 124. And I sometimes get it up to 140. Okay.
Is there a heart rate that is too high?
Well, yes. For most people, anything above 100, unless you're a really top athlete, anything above 150 can be dangerous.
Okay, all right. And what I have is, Dr. Shealy, when it's raining and I can't get outside, or if I do get outside, I'm in a tractor with a cab on it, or a tractor with a sunshade to keep the rain off me, so I don't run around too much in the rain if I can help it. So I have this Schwinn Airdyne that we've had in our family for, I would say, darn close to 2 decades. And this is a bicycle with this big fan that provides resistance, and you just sit on this, and the handlebars move forward and backward as you ride this bike. So your arms are going forward and backward, and your torso is moving as your arms go backward and forward, and your legs are pedaling the bike. How often should someone use one of those if they can't get out and run around the farm like we do?
5 days a week for a minimum of 20 minutes, preferably 30.
Okay. And then what happens when you start doing this, and if you haven't done this, you don't have one of these exercise bikes, and your legs start, it hurts so much.
Well, you just start off with 3 minutes, and every day add another minute until you get up to 20.
Okay. And do you stop if you start huffing and puffing, or what are the signs to tell you, you know what, that's enough for today, maybe a little more tomorrow?
Right.
What are the signs?
Any significant fatigue or soreness is slow down.
Okay. And what I do is when I get on it, I count in my mind how many cycles. I mean, it has a meter to tell me how far I've ridden, but I just do it in my mind. I just count cycles, and I try to increase them every day, and that's what I do. We're talking about roses, Dr. Shealy, and I was thinking, as we were talking about roses, that when I was in the rose garden with my wife, it was relaxing. It was the most pleasant feeling And it was one where you could leave your troubles behind. That would be the detachment. It was really interesting. I had a million things to do on my list. It's go, go, go. More things on my list than I could possibly ever accomplish. And it's every day. It doesn't change. The list, I cross off items, but more items are added to the list. I can never finish this list. So there are a lot of things that I have self-imposed list. But I found that when I was in the garden, I wasn't thinking about the list. I wasn't, I got to get back into the automotive shop and I've got to fix the truck that's on the lift. I didn't worry about that at that point. I was detached. Is that the scent of the roses?
Yes. Well, of course, the roses do have that natural energy that is relaxing and protecting both.
Okay. So that brings to mind the next thought. I felt great. I mean, and I'm wondering if that is why roses are important for that first date. That you find that person, that gal that you think, she's worth the investment. This could be a really good thing. This could be, the person that you want to pursue for marriage, that kind of thing. And so you buy roses. Is the relaxation, the detachment, and all those words that we would use that surround rose oil, do you think that could be part of the reason why guys buy roses? Not carnations,
absolutely.
But roses.
No question about it. Roses are, in my opinion, the single most important flower.
Okay. And another time when roses are, you see roses, of course, weddings, and then very sad times. When you're at a funeral, you see roses, and do the roses help with overcoming that overwhelming loss that a person feels? Anxiety
and depression go together, and so if you've got any of one, you have some of the other. And so, yes, roses are calming.
Okay, and then there's that other time when flowers, sometimes roses, but flowers are used, and that is when someone's in the hospital. And I was thinking, until just recently, for over 60 years, I was thinking, why do people bring flowers into someone who is in a hospital bed? Why do they do that? We've got the pollen, we've got, maybe they are having respiratory problems, and here we have these scents that maybe could make it worse. And then just recently I realized, as you were talking about roses and the effect of them, is that why roses are subconsciously brought into a hospital room to help the person get well? And does it have a positive effect? Is it psychosomatic? Is it real? Or is it just to make the person that brings the roses feel better? Let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Do roses help? Unless someone has an allergic reaction to them. Do roses help that person who's in the hospital bed get better? Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us. NormShealy.com. NormShealy.com. So, Dr. Shealy, when people are in the hospital and maybe they've had surgery, they're recovering, but obviously something's seriously wrong, otherwise they wouldn't be in the hospital. Flowers, is that a good thing or a bad thing, assuming that they're not allergic to,
Very good.
Flowers?
People with flowers in their room need less pain medication, have a lower blood pressure, recover faster, and are more positive. All of the above.
Wow. I've never heard anyone say that. Never. This is the very first time. So is that any kind of flowers, Dr. Shealy, or is that
even regular plants, even leafy plants? Again, there's something good about plants. You know, my favorite avocation is gardening, and I've loved plants all my life. I spent 3 hours in the garden this weekend, and to me, that's the best weekend I could possibly have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a garden right outside our back door. We love it. I know Stephen Hewer. You've had a chance to spend some time with him on the air. He loves gardening. Rich Sheben loves gardening. Gwyneth Isaacson in Australia loves gardening. There are a whole bunch of us. I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving out 50 names, but there are a whole bunch of us who love gardening and love the results. And do you, when you were raising your children, Dr. Shealy, I don't mean to get personal, but did you encourage them to spend time in the garden and see we'll call them the fruits of their labors in the garden?
Oh, absolutely. You know, just sitting in the garden, to me, or standing in the garden is positive.
It's interesting you say that, because my mom carried out a table and a couple of chairs, and she placed them in the garden, and literally in the middle of the garden. And you know, her flower garden has a big tree in the middle of it, and she would just go out there and sit under the tree in the garden, and you know, if I couldn't find her, that's where I would go, and there she'd be in the garden. And so there must have been some attraction that was very, very powerful in her life to bring her to do that. I mean, to literally spend that much time.
I totally agree with her. You know, I do not trust people who don't like plants.
You know, I just looked to my left. I have in the studio, I have 3 plants and 1 tree. I have an avocado that we started from an avocado seed or pit, and it's almost as tall as the door now, and it's in a window. It's a tall window, and it's growing really well. So yeah, there's something about it, and it's a feel good kind of a thing. Okay, I wanted to ask you about probiotics, and I was talking with Andy, who's engineering the broadcast today, and I said, Andy, do you have any questions for Dr. Shealy? He said, well, if you're going to be talking about probiotics, how about kombucha? Can you talk about that?
I like all probiotics and all prebiotics. You know, remember, the intestines have more bacterial cells in them than we do have cells in our body. And they need the right kind of nourishment. And that nourishment is provided by prebiotics and probiotics. Kombucha is one of the best. It takes a week to make, but I slightly prefer kefir because it only takes a day to make.
Okay. And you've recommended on air plain yogurt, Greek yogurt. And,
absolutely, another perfect one.
Yeah. And so when we come back, let's talk a little bit about when is the best time to take prebiotics. Is it in the morning, lunchtime, afternoon, with food, without food? Let's talk a little bit about that. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. I'm Vince Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. If you'd like to call us, Dr. Shealy's in class today. He's at the front of the room teaching. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. We'll pay for the call if you'd like to call and talk to Dr. Norm Shealy. Dr. Shealy, hour number 1, we were talking about prebiotics, probiotics, and we mentioned we're going to talk about the best time to take them. Is it first thing in the morning? Is it before breakfast, with breakfast, after breakfast, noon? When is the best time?
I honestly believe before or during breakfast is the best time. It's easier to set a habit that way. But there's good evidence that some people who don't sleep well, that taking probiotics at bedtime improves sleep. Let's face it, those greedy little bacteria, and I don't mean that in a negative way, those hungry little bacteria in your intestines need both prebiotics and probiotics. Prebiotics are actually fiber. They are food for the bacteria. The best prebiotics are onions, garlic, artichokes, legumes, beans and peas, and chicory root, and bananas. You know, bananas have that long bit of fiber. It's right on the outside of the banana. That's part of the best part of the banana. And asparagus. All of those are your prebiotics. But your probiotics are another group. They are actually the bacteria to reinforce the good bacteria in your intestine.
You know, as you mentioned, some of those foods, onions, garlic, artichokes, beets, peas, bananas, and asparagus, those are all foods that my mom loved. Now, not everybody likes asparagus. I mean, it's kind of a slimy...
I spent 3 hours in the garden this weekend, and I must have eaten, maybe 8 asparagus.
Yeah.
You're not picking me them right. I actually prefer asparagus raw.
Yeah. Okay. How about horseradish? Is that something that we should be eating?
I like it. It's one of my favorites of all these sort of spicy foods. I like horseradish above all of them. Ginger and horseradish are my favorites.
Okay. Now, are there foods that we should not consume when we're taking probiotics? Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So, I have in the refrigerator some pickles, and I have some pickled jalapenos, and some banana peppers, some hot ones. And should we avoid eating our probiotics with them? You know, for example, when I make a salad, I like to put in some pepperoncini, which are pickled peppers, if you will, in vinegar. I guess what I'm getting at, is vinegar something that we should avoid, or are there other foods that we should avoid when we're taking probiotics?
I don't think so. Now, I wouldn't, swallow my probiotics or prebiotics with vinegar, but a tablespoon of vinegar in a glass of water, minimum once a day, is excellent for the intestines.
Okay. And is there a time that's better than other times for...
Well, yeah, the best times for the vinegar in water are first thing in the morning before anything else, or the last thing before you go to bed.
Okay, vinegar in water. Now, would that be vinegar with mother, or apple cider, or distilled
cider.
vinegar, or... Okay.
Preferably apple cider vinegar.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Vinegar in water before bedtime. Okay. All right. I was reading, Dr. Shealy, some interesting information about dogs. And there are some deadly foods that dogs should not eat. And I thought maybe we should discuss this. And these are foods that are probably good for us, but deadly for dogs. For example, avocados. I didn't know. I've never fed my dog an avocado, but it has persin in it. It's a toxin that causes fluid to build up in a dog's chest. Avocados. I didn't know that until recently. But how do you...
my Tonto, my German Shepherd, he loves coleslaw, for instance.
Yeah. And that has onions. Right?
Yeah. I like, I love avocados myself, but I've never given one to Tonto. I won't try it.
Yeah. Well, the reason I wanted to mention this is some of these foods we think are okay for us to eat, maybe even beneficial. And you've mentioned that you think avocados is fine, and I've mentioned that I'd like to have a half of an avocado a day. Now, is that beneficial for the heart, or avocados, or the oils in avocados?
Every organ. Mm-hmm. Avocados are a premium food.
Okay. And we mentioned onions earlier. Now, I understand that onions can damage the red blood cells in a dog, and garlic as well. So onions and garlic, not something that we should be feeding our dogs. And the reason I mention this is, let's say I make some spaghetti, and TJ, our dog, looks at me and is like, "Hey, Dad, looks good." And I go, "Yeah, but TJ, Mom says you can't have it because there's onions in the spaghetti sauce." So I wanted to make it kind of clear to our class that good for us doesn't mean necessarily good for your dog. The same with chocolate, right, Dr. Shealy, for dogs?
Yes. I always remind Tonto that he's not allowed to have chocolate.
Right. It has theobromine in it, and that's toxic, and caffeine. And the darker the chocolate, the worse it is for your dog. And here's something that we might not have thought of: bacon. Now, bacon's high in fat, and it can lead a dog to pancreatitis, and it will cause nutrition absorption issues in the intestines of a dog. Any thoughts on bacon, Dr. Shealy, for people?
Well, remember that most, if not almost all, bacon does have some preservative type things in it that need vitamin C to be able to metabolize nitrates and nitrites that are added to bacon. But as long as you take adequate vitamin C, you don't need to worry.
Okay, so let's talk about how do we do that? What is the procedure for eating bacon? Do you take the vitamin C before, during, or after?
Well, I don't think it matters as long as you got it in your body.
Okay, about the same time?
Roughly.
Okay, and the way I cook bacon, class, my family really doesn't like it if I cook bacon, and that's because I take my father taught chemistry, and he would say, well, water's the universal solvent. So if you're concerned about the sodium nitrite and sodium nitrate in the bacon, you can just put it in a pan of water, boil out some of the nitrates and nitrites, and then cook the bacon. And it works great, but it really degrades that bacon taste. It really does.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to share that. Macadamia nuts are toxic to dogs. Even if you're having a macadamia nut cookie and you say, oh, here's one for me, here's one for you, that's dangerous because it can cause your dog to not be able to walk, and it can make the dog very weak. And milk. I didn't know. Our dogs love milk. I didn't know that as they get older, they don't have the enzymes to break down milk, and it can cause severe stomach problems, potential bacteria exposure in the digestive system.
Well, my dogs prefer ice cream, but they do like milk.
But they can't have chocolate ice cream, can they?
Right.
Yeah. And just very quickly, class, grapes. Grapes can cause kidney failure in a dog, and raisins as well. So I just wanted to share that. Now, what are your thoughts about grapes for us, Dr. Shealy? Red grapes, green grapes, very, very dark red grapes, muscadine grapes. Any grape, good, bad? What are your thoughts?
I think all grapes are good. Now, red grapes supposedly have more resveratrol, which is one of the great antioxidants. But all fruits, to me, are an excellent part of the diet. I think anybody who goes without one serving or two of fruits and 5 servings of vegetables is going to not be healthy.
When I was chatting with Mrs. Finelli yesterday, I was in the studio and I was doing some computer work, and she came in and she said, "Look at that! Look at my nails." She said they are growing like crazy. They're really, really growing fast. She said, "I have to keep cutting and cutting and cutting my fingernails, my toenails." And I said, "Me too, me too." And she said, "Hey Vin, your hair's getting curlier. really getting curlier. Dr. Shealy, we think it is the scalar energy device. Is that possible?
Yes. I think it is. It's interesting. I've noticed the same thing just as much as also the losing of my gray hair.
Can you say that again?
My gray hair is disappearing.
And where's it going? Is it being replaced?
It's the normal color.
It's coming back? The color's coming back?
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening to me, too. And look, can we talk about this scalar energy device and the study that we're involved in? Mrs. Finelli and I and you and about 10 of us are involved in this study. Can we talk about that, your scalar energy device, when we come back? Dr. Shealy, you and Lou Cassidy worked on an amazing device that creates scalar energy.
Yeah.
And I'm part of a study with Mrs. Finelli. Can you share with us exactly what that study is, how it works, and why we're seeing that, my hair is turning blacker, and my fingernails and toenails are growing like crazy, and so Mrs. Finelli is experiencing the same thing.
Well, basically, what we found is that scalar energy is the single greatest reduction in the biochemical reaction to stress. I can say that, I think, beyond anything I know. I've studied stress for over 45 years, and stress causes a whole bunch of problems in the body, including inflammation and toxicity of all kinds. And scalar energy reduces adrenal medulin, the number one chemical reaction to stress. It reduces free radicals. It reduces symptoms. It reduces inflammation in the blood. All of these are just part of the whole.
Okay. And so what we're doing in our house is we have in the bedroom maybe 18 inches to 24 inches from me the scalar energy device. It's plugged in. It has a little wall transformer on a long cord, and it's aimed at me. It's silent. It doesn't make any sound. There's no aroma. There's no noise. There's just a blinking red light to tell you that it is transmitting these frequencies, non-invasive at all. And if it weren't for the red light, you wouldn't even know it was there. And it's kind of a peaceful thing. And I've got to tell you, Mrs. Finelli is sleeping more soundly than ever.
Well, I think there's no question. It does all of that and more. And of course, the reason we're sleeping with it is I believe, that at the end of 12 months, we will have significantly regenerated telomeres, the dispel DNA.
Mm-hmm. And how close to you are you at your measurement of your telomeres?
Well, my telomeres have already been growing because of the things I've done in the past, but I expect that to continue this year. And I got just enough in the first 3 months to say, yes, I know it's going to work.
Okay. I got a call from John Statmiller over the weekend, and he said, hey, Vinny, do you know that private wells, drinking water wells, can be contaminated with nitrogen or nitrates, and that can cause all kinds of problems, including cancers. Dr. Shealy, are you familiar with that as a problem?
Well, let's face it. For the last century, virtually, farmers have been using nitrates and nitrites as fertilizer.
Yes.
And no question, it's harmful, not good for us. Mm-hmm. But if you take adequate vitamin C, you can prevent that. To me, that's adequate. It's a minimum 2,000 milligrams a day, as in youth farming. Yeah,
class. My favorite vitamin C is Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula. It's a capsule, and it has MSM in it, and I take many of them per day. I spread them out, and Mrs. Finelli takes them. It's really interesting. Our children take them, and I didn't expect that to happen. I just brought them in, and they see me taking them, and it seems to be working really well for me. So they've jumped on the bandwagon, as it were, and they're taking them. So, class, you can get the same youth formula that I purchased from Dr. Shealy by going to normshealy.com, and this is called Youth Formula. Absolutely, by far, my favorite vitamin C. By far. And I don't feel comfortable when I run low. I make the 100-mile round trip to get more. At least 2 at a time when I go to Springfield. Class, just a quick update. I think I'm going to talk about generators in a little more detail on Friday, hour number 1. And so here are some of the topics I'm going to go over. I'm probably going to do it solo. Do you need a generator? If so, how many watts should it be? Gas versus propane versus diesel. What's a whole house generator? Should you consider one? How to wire a generator into your house wiring system. Can you run a well pump on a generator? How long do generators last? What happens if you don't use your generator for a few years? Generators versus inverters. Can you modify a computer uninterruptible power system to be used for producing electricity in an emergency? And what's the cost? And generator maintenance, supplies, and the frequency of maintenance. How to buy a used generator. How to silence a generator. And pull start versus battery start generators. So I think I'm going to do that hour number 1 on Friday. And if you're interested, send me an email, please, at Vincent at USA Prepares. If you'd like to join in, we'd love to have your thoughts. In that line of thinking, Dr. Shealy, what you live on a farm, and I've been as far as your farm on your road that your farm, the paved road that your farm is on. But I got to tell you, your neighbors are really few and far between. What I'm saying is, on the road leading to your farm, your neighbors are a mile apart, at least, right?
8/10 to be exact.
Okay, and so when the power has failed over the years, what was your reaction? What did you do? How did you prepare for that? Because there's nobody coming to help you. That's the reason I said that your neighbors are so far apart. It'd be hard to even know your neighbors at that distance, right?
We have a diesel generator.
Okay.
15 kilowatts.
Diesel. How many?
I think it's 15 kilowatts.
Okay, so it's a big generator.
Yeah.
Okay. I assume if it's a diesel generator, it's a manual. Manually, you go out there and you start it up, and then you bring it to the right frequency, and then you engage a transfer switch, and then everybody's, all the outlets and everything's running. Is that right? Is that what you do?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's exactly the way we do it here at our farm, and the reason we do it is it's necessary. It's not boy, sure would be nice. We could die without a generator because, right?
Yes, you bet.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Shealy, I'm curious about lots of things. And so I wanted to find out, what about radioactivity in our lives? Where does it come from? What is it? And I thought, what about foods? What about naturally radioactive foods? And there are a lot of foods that you recommend that you and I both like and consume that are radioactive. For example, Brazil nuts, right?
Well,
Brazil nuts.
Everything in the world now has that potential because of all the stuff that's put in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brazil nuts have radioactive elements, radium and potassium. But potassium is really good for us, right?
Right.
And so I remember Brazil nuts on the table, and we'd have to crack them open in the 1950s at my grandparents' house. I always had a nut bowl on the dining room table and with nutcrackers in there, and you would just help yourself, and Brazil nuts were in there. Now, lima beans are radioactive in potassium and also radon. But what's your thought about lima beans?
Well, it's one of my favorite of the legume family.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's another one of your favorites. Bananas. Bananas are radioactive enough that they can, if you have enough of them, set off the radiation alarms in airports. They have potassium 40, which is radioactive, but I still eat bananas, and I feel that bananas are an important part of my diet. Yes, Dr. Shealy? No? What are your thoughts?
I consider them one of the best foods, yes.
Okay.
Here's one that... I don't want them green.
Okay. Now, all right. There's kind of a sweet spot for me between green and brown. When they're brown, I just can't handle them.
Well, I can't eat that. I don't think you should.
Okay. And what is the concern about green bananas? Are they toxic?
Well, they can be. I think they've got some incomplete stuff in them.
Okay.
It's got to be ripe.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and yellow.
One of my favorite foods, I believe, one of yours as well, is orange, and it's carrots. Now, carrots are radioactive as well.
Yep. Well, they pick it out of the air, which is in the ground.
And white potatoes. So, for those who are eating, a baked potato, it's got some radioactive, potassium 40 in it. Dr. Shealy, why is it that a potato is good for you, but a French fry is not? What happens between being a potato and being a French fry? What happens that makes it not good for us?
It's been boiled in fat.
Mm-hmm.
And although some fat is good, it's no longer a vegetable. It's just trash.
Mm-hmm. Sure tastes good, though. How about popcorn? I love popcorn. I'm really careful not to eat the hard kernels and damage my teeth. But what about popcorn with a small amount of salt?
Good for you.
Okay. Now, how would, Dr. Shealy, if you were making popcorn, how would it be made at your farm? Would you use a pan with some oil in it, vegetable oil? If so, which one? Coconut oil?
Olive oil. I do both, olive oil or butter.
Okay. But now that's something that I haven't tried. I've used olive oil, but I have not cooked it in just butter. I'm going to try that. Now, what about salt? Dr. Shealy, there are all kinds of salts. There's low sodium salt. There's iodized salt, uniodized white salt, and there's Himalayan salt.
I use Himalaya.
That's what I do, that pink salt.
5 pounds in my house all the time.
Now, that's interesting that you say that, because on the kitchen counter, we have a 5-pound bag of Saltworks salt, and we buy it from them, and class, it's $19 shipped for 5 pounds of pink salt. And you can get it in all kinds of grinds. You can get it really coarse all the way to really fine. And we have one of those grinder-type salt shakers and grinder for whole peppercorns. And that's what we do. So we get it kind of coarse, and we grind it ourselves, but it's pink. And the reason I'm mentioning Saltworks in $19 and 5 pounds is there are two things that I'm surprised at. Number one, when we just used to use white salt, we would hardly use it at all. As a matter of fact, we never took the salt shaker out. And sometimes company would come and say, "Do you have any salt?" You go, "Oh, we don't use it, so that's why it's not on the table, but we've got some somewhere." Well, with the pink Himalayan salt, we're using more salt. Is that a good thing or not a good thing, Dr. Shealy?
I think it's a good thing.
Okay. Now, the reason I mentioned 5 pounds is I'm quite surprised at how long 5 pounds lasts. And one of the things that if I want to send someone a gift, I will contact Saltworks on the internet and have it shipped to them. I pay for it and have it shipped to them, and they like it. They go, "Wow, this is really neat. We never had this before, but we really like it. So I think that there's a health aspect that I can detect with Himalayan salt. Is that some?
Yeah, the 3% of it is a mix of minerals.
Minerals in trace amounts that you don't get elsewhere?
Exactly.
Okay. Back to radioactivity. Low sodium salt contains potassium chloride, and that has radioactive. It's radioactive as well. Not in a lethal dosage, but it's in there. Red meat does too, Dr. Shealy.
Of course, they're standing right out there to get it out of the air.
Yep. And to the dismay of some of our listeners, some of our class, beer gets its radioactivity from potassium 40.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about?
But I want to tell you the most important discovery of the last 6 months.
Okay. And what is that discovery?
Any drink in an aluminum can is poison to your body. They are loaded with aluminum. I recently found I've been drinking a very strong ginger beer. Ginger beer has no alcohol in it, just a very strong ginger, which I like. I've been drinking about 2 a week. All of a sudden, I'm loaded with aluminum. I opened the can, and it's pure aluminum inside. Mm-hmm. I even took one of them and had it analyzed, and in the liquid in the ginger beer is pure aluminum. Don't go near any drink in a can, beer or otherwise. Get it in a bottle.
Very good point, Dr. Shealy, because what we're talking about is not only does beer come in cans, not only does soda come in cans, water, club soda comes in cans.
And
yeah, and so here's one more point. I remember from probably in the 1960s learning that in the bottling plants they had trouble with this syrup that is that's used for mixing the Coca-Cola with water and adding carbon dioxide to it. The syrup is so corrosive that it'll eat through metal pipes. So if it'll eat through metal pipes at the bottling plant, will it eat the aluminum in the can? And the answer is yeah, it does. And so when we come back, Dr. Shealy, can we talk a little bit about what aluminum does to the body? Yeah, aluminum. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. Dr. Shealy, you've mentioned something very, very important, and that is aluminum cans and beverages in aluminum cans. That's beer, water, club soda, caustic sodas like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and high caffeine sodas, all in aluminum cans, and you recommended bottles. What does aluminum do to the body? Because I just did a quick search on aluminum, and I found that it says non-toxic, and I know that is absolutely not true.
It's a brazen lie.
Yeah.
It's damaging to your brain. It's one of the major contributors to Alzheimer's disease, and it can even cause you to lose your entire sense of taste. And it's damaging.
Dr. Shealy, you mentioned Alzheimer's and of course various forms of dementia. There's so many people whom I meet that will say, geez, I can't remember that. I used to, my memory was better than it is now. So many people say that. I would imagine that the same thing you find in your practice, right? People say that their memory's not as good as it used to be, right?
Absolutely, very common.
Yeah. And so do you think that this is a serious link between loss of memory, loss of concentration, confusion, dementia, Alzheimer's, all linked to aluminum poisoning?
Yes, all.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum foil, aluminum pans, aluminum pots, aluminum cans. I mean, it's all junk. Poison. And
Dr. Shealy, back in... Yeah.
You know where fluoride came from? The aluminum mining industry. So aluminum is doubly poison because to get it out of the ground, they produce more fluoride, which they put in our water to poison us further.
Mm-hmm. I remember back in the 1950s and 60s, my mom, my grandmother, pretty much every household had Club, C-L-U-B, brand aluminum pots. And heck, that's what you put the spaghetti sauce in, and you simmer it, for all day in aluminum pot with the aluminum lid. And, then we learned that the acids in the tomatoes that we were, simmering for hours and hours and hours was eating the aluminum, and the aluminum became part of the spaghetti sauce, and it was linked to brain problems. So, of course, we all stopped using it, but it was really popular because it was sold as a feature because aluminum's so light and it is easy to handle and easier to wash and all that, as compared with the previous metal, which was cast iron. That's what they used to use for spaghetti pots, cast iron.
I threw all of ours out over 40 years ago.
Yep. We did as well. I used to have one of them that I would keep for draining oil in the automotive shop, and it's been gone for a long time. But we won't even use an aluminum pot for dog water. I mean, the dogs are
dog.
Right. Don't want to kill our family members. So, Dr. Shealy, what are there any side effects to aluminum in addition to what you've talked about, urinary problems?
Well, the immune system, as in every other disease, it's terrible for your immune system. So it makes you prone to cancer and infections.
Yeah. So, class, we're talking about aluminum pots, aluminum pans, aluminum lids, aluminum baking pans. Yeah, aluminum baking pans, aluminum foil, aluminum containers for food and liquids. We need to cut it out of our life. Dr. Shealy, thanks so much for being with us today. I look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same station. Dr. Norm Shealy, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Thank you, Dr. Shealy.